Hi there, Neil from Diagonal Move here, looking today at a game called Bomber Boys, which is a World War II themed solitaire specific game. It's print and play, and this video is going to be an overview of what you'd get when you download a copy of this game. So think of it as an unboxing, quote unquote, or a file overview. I haven't quite decided what to call this series of videos just yet. On the table in front of me then is what you'd get, or 90% of what you'd get. There would be an extra sheet for these tokens, but I've started to make those already, so I don't have this piece of paper. But at least you'll have a sense of what you need to put together from those tokens. Before I dive into the rest of the video, let's take a moment to just look at what we have on the table. So we have a rulebook, a game sheet, and then 3 sets of cards essentially. There's a set of crew cards, and again I've started to make those. There's what's called a set of bombing run cards, and then mission overview cards for those bombing runs. I will take a look in turn at each of those components shortly, but before I do so, if you do like what I do on this channel, please click like, subscribe, comment, all the little things that do help me keep this channel up and running. Okay, let's go and take a look at what's inside Bomber Boys. Let's start with a look at the rules for Bomber Boys and a quick overview of the game. Essentially, you're going to be acting as the crew members of a bomber during World War II, and you're going to be trying to survive a mission. And my understanding at the moment is that you have a deck of cards that represent the mission, and you have to play through that deck of cards, and you survive or not, as the case may be. The rules themselves are very clearly laid out, and in terms of the files as a whole, let's just take a moment to mention that this is a very, very well done PnP package. Even more so when you consider that when I downloaded this was actually available completely for free from PNP Arcade. Well worth checking this out, purely because it highlights what can be done in terms of PnP files. Clearly the people who put this together have some experience making PnP games. And speaking of which, the game is designed by Steve Aramini, who I believe is one of the co-designers of Sprawlopolis, which is a button shy game I featured on the channel. And the graphic design is by Mike Hort. The rules themselves have a narrative introduction and the objective of the game, and right up on the front is a very important thing, which is what else you need to play the game in addition to what you get through the file download. So in this case, you would optionally require a bunch of cubes, or you can use the tokens which do come provided, and that's what I've already made up. But what you will need to provide is some dice, a total of 7 dice in 2 different colours, plus a d12 to represent damage. So the fact that it lists straight away what you need is a really good thing from that PnP perspective. And not only do they suggest you can use cubes should you have them lying around, and let's face it, lots of us do, but you do also have those tokens provided as well. So I'll use the tokens because they're there and I've made them already. But looking further at the rules, we have the setup, and as I was saying before, you have the crew that you're running, and the map sheet there with representing where you take damage and so on. You have information about the cards, the crew cards, the mission cards, and how to prep the bomb run deck based on the level of difficulty that you wish to play, and there's a level of difficulty ranging from 1 through to 5. There's information about the gameplay and detailing item cards, event cards and enemy cards, all within those bomb run decks. And then you have information about how combat works, and then further information around things like line of sight, damaging the enemy, determining focus, and so on and so forth. You can rally your crew, you can be attacked by the enemy and be attacked from the ground and from the air, it seems, and there's information around taking damage and so on. It's all very clear. There's some nice pictures there, presumably from the archives, and also some nice examples of how to assign dice to the different cards, detailed damage and so on. And then there's also information about abilities of the crew and some of the specifics that the individual roles can play. Look more at the roles when we look at the crew cards. And then the aim, of course, is to bomb the target, and you have to assign dice, it would seem, in order to achieve that bombing run and complete the mission. And there's a score on the back of how well you've done, including failure and success, major victory, conditional victory, as well as varying types of failure, and then finally a score. With the ability to scale the difficulty as well, in addition to the difficulty levels already within the cards themselves. Let's have a quick look at that map sheet while we're here. You have obviously a bomber. I couldn't for the life of me tell you what type of bomber that is, but it's definitely a plane, about as much as I know about air combat. Different locations for the different crew members, the different engines, indications around when you fail the mission. So if your pilot and co-pilot both die, or all four engines are destroyed, and then the turn sequence and damage dice and so on there. So it's all pretty clear, nicely laid out, and a really good example of how to present a rulebook in a PnP format. The next thing to look at is the crew that you're going to take on these missions over occupied territory. You would have 10 crew members in total. Whether you use them all on each mission, I'm not sure at the moment, but you certainly have 10 available to you. And each one has certain abilities, a position, a firing range it looks like, and then certain number of dice you roll or dice effects. As you can see, I've made some of these and they are coming with a back as well. For those of you that are interested in the card sizes, I think they're a standard European card size. I don't typically sleeve my cards, but I just use it to keep them the same size, because I struggle to sometimes keep cards to a uniform size when I make games. I'm not the most talented print and play maker in the world. But let's have a look at some of the other positions and so on. So you have the bombardier, the pilot, co-pilot, navigator, flight engineer, radio, ball turret, tail gunner, left waist and right waist gunners, and they all appear to do somewhat different things, and that's really quite neat. The pilot, for example, lets you give another crew member line of sight to a target it would not normally see, presumably representing leadership, and then it also allows you to evade a ground attack. And the co-pilot has a very similar ability there, but allowing you to add +1 to your ammo. So some really cool sounding abilities, unique to the specific roles that each player or each character in the game would fulfill. And we do have the reverse of those cards as well. Just a quick comment around the margins. I don't know if this is a file that's been adjusted for non-US paper sizes, but it certainly doesn't seem to be as significant a margin as some games I've played, and there are a growing number of companies that seem to accommodate the fact that there are different paper sizes outside of the USA versus what is used in the US. So that's very useful if you're not based in the US, because that can influence the size of your counters and your cards and so on. So where are we sending all those crew members? What missions are we completing? Well, they are shown on these cards here, the bombing run mission cards, if you like. And you have certain targets. There's a munitions factory, artillery bunker, military base, a submarine base, and an airfield. And here details the makeup of the deck and the briefing for the mission. For example, the Milk Run mission there says your mission couldn't be easier. Make your way through enemy-infested airways, navigating past the local air defence guns and bomb the artillery bunker without being shot from the sky. Simple, right, with a question mark. Difficulty level of 1, and there's a range of cards. It says include the base cards plus 17 additional cards, flak, enemy aircraft, and then a bunch of events and items. Very neat summary there of how to prepare the deck. Very cool, clearly highlighting how much consideration the team behind this game have put into usability for this game, so that's really neat. Other missions include the Hornet's Nest, which has 20 cards you add into the deck, 21 for Berlin Blitz, and 21 for Nightwing as well. So yeah, it looks like there's a bunch of different things here, and the difficulty range is 1 through 5, as I think I may have mentioned previously. But inside the decks of cards that you will use for these missions are these other cards. You have items like a flak jacket, extra ammo, and first aid kit, each of which allows you to do a certain thing when you draw it or when you have the card visible. Again, I don't know quite how the game works yet. Then there are events, for example, the element of surprise there, jammed guns, friendly fire, engine trouble, various things that impact what you can and can't do in the game. Each of these cards do have the same back, although they are different colours to show you the different type of card. Again, another very nice touch in terms of the user friendliness of it, for what at the time when I got this was essentially a free game. And then we have enemy aircraft, so these are going to be the German forces that are attacking you. A range of different archive pictures on there as well. And again, we have dice spots and attack values and so on those cards. And there's quite a few of those, as you can see. There's at least 12, potentially a few more on some of the other sheets as well. And then we've got flak, including the flak from flak Panzer's battleships, and as well as regular flak guns. So there's quite a lot in here to get stuck into. It's predominantly card based, plus those dice that you need to supply yourself. Hopefully that's been a good overview or an informative overview of what you get inside this game. I'm really looking forward to getting this one to the table. The user friendliness of it just seems out of this world from what I can see in front of me and in terms of my experience of making other print and play war games. So that then was Bomber Boys, which is, or at least was, available from Print and Play Arcade. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.